Hey H&K fans, James here with another video for you. This week I'd like to cover the P7K3. Now I've got a much more detailed review on the entire P7 series on my channel. I'll link it here in the description, but I thought this would be a good opportunity to take a much more close view of one of the rare models from the P7 series, and that's the K3. So without further ado, I recommend you grab a tasty beverage and follow me around the workbench and we'll dive right in. Okay, so to start the discussion on the P7K3, we've really got to look back at kind of the history where the company was at the time of presenting this weapon. The P7 series had become quite successful for H&K, completely new from the ground up design for that company and really very unique to anything else that was out on the market at the time. And they had started to see success with police contracts, both in Germany and as well as in the U.S. And the P7 had been replaced by the P7 M8 and M13, which we have here, which is basically just a product improvement of that initial design. And where we saw the P7K3 come into light was first witnessed at the police exposition in Luxembourg in November 1984. And it was well received there and began into the H&K product catalog beginning in 1985. And what they found was a requirement coming out of these law enforcement contracts for a sub-caliber version of the P7M8. And this really comes out of a kind of a European thing. We didn't see this nearly as much in the US, but it was very popular there for training budget-wise for those organizations to have something less than a 9mm caliber for those officers to be able to train on and qualify on. So what you often saw was 32 ACP or 22, but having a weapon that had all the similar functionality to transfer over to their actual service weapon. And that's where we came up with the P7K3. So when you look at them side by side, the P7K3 here on the right, the P7M8 on my left, they look very, very similar. Obviously, that's the intent here. Really, the big noticeable difference when you look at the side of them profile is that the P7K3 is just slightly smaller and it's got a slightly smaller trigger guard without a heat shield. And well, that's because the P7K3 is an actual simple blowback design. It doesn't use the gas piston, gas retarded delay system that the P7 PSP and the M series pistols that followed all incorporate. This one is actually simple blowback with the use of a hydraulic buffer, and I'll get into that a little more later in the video. But the big questions a lot of times are from guys are, what's the size difference between the two? And if you lay them on top of each other, hopefully you can see that there's just a very small portion here at the front of the receiver, the slide, and the barrel that's a little bit longer on the P7M8. Obviously, the trigger guard is just a little bit smaller on the P7K3, and it's just a little bit shorter at the base as well. A little bit more narrow in the grip, but the slide assembly is still very much the same. Even the weight is proportionally about the same between these two pistols, so they did a very good job matching those things. So that's really kind of where the design based out of, and the nomenclature, the naming convention for this of P7K3. Well, obviously the P7 relates to the P7 series. The K stands for Kurs, or the German word for short, meaning subcaliber and compact in nature. And then the 3 annotates it having 3 different caliber conversion capabilities. Now H&K actually pioneered that with their very first handgun design, the HK4, which had 4 different caliber conversions, 22, 25, 32, and 380. When they went to the P7K3, they eliminated the 25 capability, and it was offered in 22, 32, and 380. So that's where that nomenclature comes from. It was initially offered there on the European market and then also offered on the US side. And there were actually two different models designed because of the specific US import restrictions for these small subcompact type pistols that still exist today. They had to make some modifications to those. And this is an example of such. The way you can view these and tell them from the European spec ones. First, you can see here on the left side of the grip, there's this raised thumb rest portion here on the left side, whereas the standard models from the European side had a flush, straight grip panel like the other P7 series pistols. The other noticeable difference was on the sights. You'll see here at the rear side of this pistol has somewhat of a target style adjustable rear sight, click adjustable. And the reason for this, as well as that grip panel change, is to give it more of a sporting purpose configuration in the eyes of the import regulations, where they had certain amount of points that had to be added to a pistol in order for it to meet import approval. That's the way they were able to get it in. The European ones didn't need that. They had the standard sights and the standard grips. The other big difference you will see on these is that the US model variants had a prefix serial number that started with USA, whereas the European market ones did not have the USA markings. Other than that, the pistols are virtually identical between the groups. Other noticeable differences, the early model P7K3s had a lanyard loop. Well, you can see that here. There at the base of the magazine well. The later models omitted that. But other than that, the design remains principally unchanged over the lifespan of the pistols. Internally, though, that's the main difference. So let's take a look here at the P7M8 first. And what you'll notice, if we look under the fixed barrel, we will see a gas cylinder beneath the barrel. If we look inside the barrel, I'm hoping you guys can see this on the camera. Maybe you cannot, but just forward of where the chamber is, there's a port that opens into that gas cylinder, diverts some of the expanding gas from behind the fired cartridge into that gas cylinder. And then what meets the gas cylinder is the actual gas piston. And this is what creates that gas retarded delay that makes the weapon so soft and recoiling and aids to that accuracy. So the way that system works is when the round is fired, it's only after the bullet is fired that the weapon locks. And that's really kind of unique. I don't know any other handgun that locks after it's fired. Usually the locking step happens prior to firing. But this one, the bullet is actually fired, then the weapon locks because some of that expanding gas moves into that cylinder, it presses up against the gas piston, and that creates that locking measure until the bullet leaves the barrel. Then the gas pressures are able to equalize, the gas piston resistance overcome, and it moves back inside the gas cylinder as the slide goes into recoil. When they went to the K3, they got rid of that design completely because of the lower power cartridges. And so what you have instead, you still have a fixed barrel design, but if you look beneath the barrel, what you'll see there, instead of a gas cylinder, you'll see a hydraulic buffer. You'll see a rod sticking out of the buffer there beneath the barrel. And then if you look at the front of the slide, what you'll notice is there is no gas piston. There's just a reinforced section here of the tang beneath the opening of the barrel. And what happens there is under recoil, this tang actually makes contact with that rod and then forces it back to the rear, where the rod is dampened by the hydraulic buffer system. And that, in combination with the recoil spring, is what provides the recoil management of that pistol. The other unique design of the pistol that you'll notice here for the K3 series is the use of a barrel locking nut and the fact that you can actually remove the barrels, and this is what gives you the ability to change the calibers. So right now it's got the 380 barrel in there. If I wanted to change to one of the other caliber conversions, I would use the barrel wrench, which comes with the pistol sets, and I would loosen and then remove this barrel nut here, and then the barrel would push out from the rear, and I could then replace it with another barrel in the set. So that makes it, you know, very easy to convert from one caliber to the next. And here is a example of what that caliber conversion set looks like. You have a 22 LR barrel and its unique magazine. You have a 32 barrel and its magazines, and then you have a separate slide. So if we look at the standard slide, you'll notice that it is actually marked 9K and 7.65. Well, 9K stands for 9mm short. For Germany, in the US we call that 380 ACP, and 7.65 is again what we call here in the US 32 ACP. So this slide is actually designed to work with both of those calibers. You would just trade in the 32 barrel and the 32 magazine, and now you're ready to go. And if you look closely here at the inside of the breech face, you'll notice the firing pin opening there in the center of the breech face for center fire operation. If we look at the 22 LR barrels or slide assembly, and we look in here, we'll notice now that the firing pin is actually raised to the top of the breech face for a rimfire firing capability. It also has a smaller extractor. So the entire slide assembly would be traded out for the 22 version in order to work with that rimfire capability. The differences in the magazines, also very unique to these pistols versus what we normally would see with a P7M8 or a PSP. With these magazines, the witness holes are more of an oval shape instead of rounded, and at the base you'll see it says P7K3, and then it says 9K, obviously for the 9mm short or 380. In 32, again, oval witness holes, and now it says 7.65. The 22 caliber magazines marked caliber 22 here at the base, and they have this little thumb support action on either side that allows you to get a little bit better purchase and help with the loading of those magazines. Now, when the pistols were offered from H&K, they were offered either in a standalone caliber system or with the caliber conversion kits, and you were able to choose. Obviously, most common here in the US was the 380, and so this is an example of such. Unfortunately, this is not the original box. The original box would have said P7K3, and it would have been serialized to that gun. The owner didn't have that box, somewhere lost over the years, so he's replaced it with a P7 box, but it would carry the spare magazine and the pistol itself. And then if you had a caliber conversion kit, those actually came in a separate box, and those boxes would be AT-P7K3, and they would either have 1 or 2 calibers within. And this is an example here where the original pistol is set up in 380. It has a separate 22 LR slide with magazine and barrel. It has an extra tool. It comes with the barrel wrench, and then we'd have the 32 barrel and 32 magazines. And then here is an example of a standalone 380 kit. So 2 magazines for 380, the barrel. Then here is the slide assembly for that that barrel kit. So this would have been that the original pistol was offered in 22, and this was a 380 kit that would have come with it as well. Conversion, like I said, pretty simple. You just remove the slide, loosen and remove the barrel nut, and then tap the barrel out the front, replace the other barrel that you want to use, tighten down that nut again, and replace your recoil spring, and then you would either put back on the 32 or 380 slide, or you would put on the 22 slide, and then put in whatever magazine you want. A pretty simple setup. The other unique thing that they did with the P7 series that they didn't do with the HK4 is that all three calibers use the same recoil spring. In the HK4, when the barrels were removed, the recoil spring was actually semi-captive to the barrel, and each recoil spring was a different weight strength. And the reason they were semi-captive was to prevent the likelihood of somebody mixing up the springs as they were switching from one kit to the next. In this system, they realized that the hydraulic buffer system and the standard spring would work on all three calibers. So pretty unique pistols. This one here is my personal gun, and I've set it up with Meprolite Trijicon sights. I'm sorry, not Trijicon, Meprolite tritium sights, and I use this as a kind of a backup concealed carry or summer weight concealed carry. Great little pistol for me. Whereas the other pistol you see here with the two conversion kits is a completely separate set. So what do I think about these as far as from an operator and armorer perspective? I would say from an operator perspective, they're just a hell of a lot of fun to own and shoot. You know, I'm a huge proponent of the P7 series, and you know, just having one in the collection, if you're a P7 fan or a collector of H&Ks, this is one you want to have in your collection. But as far as shooting, really just a joy. You know, in 22, it's got absolutely no recoil. You can shoot it all day long and just have a lot of fun and not have to spend a lot of money, and really learn those same kind of muscle memory type operations of the pistol without having to spend quite a bit of money in the process. 32 and 380 ACP, those obviously are going to have a little bit more recoil than the 22, and the recoil impulse is definitely different than what you would be used to with one of the piston-driven guns. It's not unmanageable in any way, but being a simple blowback gun, it's just different, I should say. It's a little more sharp. The 32, I think, is really kind of in the sweet spot where it's really minimal. You just don't really notice it much. The 380 is a little bit more noticeable. As far as concealed carry, you know, either 32 or 380 would be a fine choice if you were comfortable enough with a smaller caliber. The ballistic, terminal ballistic performance between 32 and 380 is not that dramatic, not nearly as dramatic a difference as jumping up from 380 to 9mm per se. So they both work really well. But again, the most common ones you're going to find are going to be the 380 chambering models. From an armorer perspective, I think that the same things apply here with the P7K3 series as they do with all the P7 series now, and that's really the fact that H&K no longer makes the parts, provides the parts and service support anymore. So finding replacement parts is and will be more and more challenging every day and more expensive. Though it looks very similar, because of the size differences and the fact that simple blowback instead of gas retarded delay blowback, not all the parts are the same as they are on the full size guns. So you have to know that difference. You know, an example here is the firing pin bushing on the back is obviously much larger and different than the firing pin bushing on the P7M8. Some of the other parts are just, they're similar in function, but they're just smaller. So that's a consideration. The real weak point of the system is the recoil buffer, that hydraulic buffer that fits under there. Again, no longer offered from H&K. There is a aftermarket option from a company here in the US, and I'll put that link in the description. I'd highly recommend you purchase some of their replacement buffers and have those on stock, because those buffers will wear out. And I wish I had, some really great data to be able to provide, how long they're going to last. But there's just not enough people that shoot these to really be able to give you that information. They could wear out after 1,000 rounds. They could make it to 10,000 rounds, but bottom line, they are going to wear out. You're going to need a replacement if you want to keep shooting the pistols. So that's an additional cost and an additional thing you need to think about. And from that perspective, it goes into one of the things I see most often for service and support on these guns. Is the removal and replacement process for the hydraulic buffer is not a straightforward and simple thing to do. And I have had many an owner actually damage or destroy their replacement buffer trying to put it in when they got in over their heads. So it's really one of those things that if you're not comfortable with or you start working on it and it starts giving you fits, you really need to back away and give somebody like me a call to help you through that. You don't want to damage or destroy one of those very expensive and hard to find buffers doing it wrong. The second thing from that perspective that I see most often from service and support is the removal of the barrel itself. As you might expect, there's probably plenty of people out there that will shoot these pistols and never want to convert them, either because they don't have the conversion kit or they're just really happy with the caliber they've got in there. And then, many years down the line, they decide, hey, I'm going to change this barrel out. And what they find is that the barrel nut is seized up onto the trunnion there because it's got cauterized carbon on there. It's got surface rust, whatever the issues are, it's just very difficult to get off. And so they start working on it with the nut, barrel nut wrench, and they end up forcing it instead of backing off and asking for help, and they can end up damaging the barrel nut, breaking the barrel wrench, doing whatever. So again, if you get to that point where you're trying to remove the barrel nut and it's just not working for you, back away, give me a call. I'm happy to help you guys out and get that sorted for you. But the best preventive maintenance is to, every time you do your post-op maintenance clean on the gun, is go ahead and remove the barrel nut, remove the barrel, lubricate everything, put everything back in, and then you won't have to worry about that thing seizing up on you. But overall, a very enjoyable weapon to shoot, a great one to have in your collection, especially if you're a P7 series fan. Really the challenges associated with acquiring now are that they didn't make a whole lot in the first place, and that the collectors who know what great pistols these are gather them up, and they don't really come up for sale that often. When they do come up for sale, because of their rareness and the desirability, they usually sell for pretty crazy money. The perfect examples of a complete conversion kit with all the accessories and whatnot, in new unfired condition, I've seen those things get up to 5 digits. It's pretty insane. And you don't see that very often. What unfortunately you see more often are the ones that I would more consider road hard and put away wet classification. And those are the ones you really need to worry about because they still demand pretty significant prices, but their condition, especially internally, can be at question. And unfortunately, a lot of times guys find that out after they've already purchased it, and then they try and shoot it, or they send it to me, and then we talk about all the things they need to do to get it back up to standard. So finding one can be difficult, and unfortunately, because of how valuable they are, a lot of the people who own them are afraid to shoot them because they're afraid to damage their recoil buffer, and they don't have a spare, or they don't want to hurt the value of the guns, and unfortunately then they just get relegated to the back of the gun safe, or only brought out on special occasions to show off. But these guns should really be enjoyed. So if you can find one that you can buy and trust is a good model, and you get it for the right price, highly encourage you to pick one up and then go out and shoot. Like I said, my P7K3 I shoot quite often, and I enjoy carrying, again, as a backup or as a summer weight companion. So if you are in the market for one, you've been looking for a good example, this example package here is one such example. It's not brand new, it's not unfired, but it is in like new condition. Everything in it is mint, and I've done a complete detailed service and inspection on the full kit. The customer who has this has it here on consignment at this time. So if you're looking for one, this is a nice one to to consider. Again, it's a P7K3. This one is a IH date code in 380 with the standard white dot sights. It does not have the original P7K3 box. It's a P7 box, but it does come with the 2 magazines. It also comes with the correct caliber conversion kit, which comes with the 22 LR slide, which is also IH date code marked, with its separate barrel and magazine. And then it's got the 32 barrel and 2 magazines, the barrel wrench and the tool. And it also comes with an additional 380 conversion kit that you could either use for yourself or with another gun, or turn around and sell, I guess. But this one is a 380 32 slide. Again, USA Chantilly marked. And it comes with the additional 380 barrel and 2 380 magazines. So if you're interested in that, you can reach out to me via the website or social media, and we can discuss what those options are. Okay, well, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. As always, I'm humbled to share my knowledge and experience with all of you. If you're looking for H&K service and support, or just unique training opportunities, give me a shout. That's what I'm here for. Thanks, guys.